Hello everyone and welcome back to Wicked Art. It's Wicked here, and today I'm just going to be practicing some shading and shading some random objects. So yeah, if you've stumbled across the channel before or you like what you're seeing and you want to subscribe to get some more art videos, go ahead and do that. Other than that, we're going to get started with some shading. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to shade probably, I'm going to do like a candle. And all you have to do is just kind of draw out the base for it. Okay, so this will be my candle. Got kind of like a turn. Let's make it go up a little bit higher, just to give it more of that melted look. Okay, I'm going to give it a little bit of an edge here. And then I'm going to make my wick for the candle come out. Alright, and then let's put it on a little stand. And just make that come down like this. And we'll just leave it there like that. Then, what's a candle without some wax dripping off of it? And take that out. So I'm just putting the little drips of wax floating down. And I just looked up a reference of melting candle. And we're just going to practice the lighting and the shading that's on there. So that's really all you have to do is just look up a candle that's shaded, with the lighting. And that way you can work on whatever you want. Okay, so I have all that down. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start working on the shading. So like certain areas like this here, like where the wax is close to the edge, I'm going to darken that up. Inside of there, let's just erase some of that sketchiness out. Then I'm going to start shading. Up to this point here. Still want a little bit of darkness around that edge. Okay. And same thing here, like since this has kind of got like an overlap, that shadow for this wax, drip edge going down, it's going to go and do the same thing. And I'm just going to keep that close here and darken this area. And then as for like the rest of the wax, we just want kind of like a light transition that comes out. So it'll still be mostly white. Okay, and then like this back edge right here, a little bit of that darkness. And then I'll just lightly work my way out that way. Now this line, because it's the hard edge, I'm going to keep that as it is, but we want to have that kind of ambient glow. So my candle, to an extent, so like we'll start that here, and as I get up towards, because my wick is black, right? But then as I get up towards this, where the actual fire is, we can just have it be really light. And then we have our candle itself with the fire on it. Okay, it's not going to be too much shading to the fire just because that's what it is. It is a glow. I can shade that out to a point. Okay, and still things like, the edge here, that's why I'm darkening that up, is just what's closer. And then just work my way out across the bottom here. Like that. Then I could kind of refine a little bit of the edge just to give it some shadow basing on there. Okay, the back edge is pretty much just non-existent. It's going to stay light. Okay, then we have our actual candle edge here. So at the point where it's actually going to overlap, that shadow is going to hit hard. Take that back, and then like down in here, you can lightly refine the edges of our wax. Okay, and to give it kind of that metal reflectiveness, we're going to make it light on this outer edge. Dark on the inside here. So to give it kind of like a metallic recess. But give it that kind of a metal look or shine. So we want to make it look like it's sitting within it, not just like sitting on top of it. So like down here towards the bottom, we want to darken that up so it looks like it's down in. That recess down there. Okay, now same thing down here with the bottom area, right? We want to start a little bit darker. And again, just depending on the metal. And that wax kind of overlaid here. So we'll have like a darker glow shadow down here towards the bottom. And then just as we work our way up towards the edge, leave a little light. And that'll just give it a nice little reflection kind of look. Okay, so I'm going to come in on certain areas where the wax is dripping down Darken those up just so it stands out a little bit more. Making these outside edges. Probably get a little bit of shading there. And now we have ourselves a little candle. Okay. So the next thing that we're going to shade is just kind of looking through these pictures that I found of different objects. We'll do one more that's easy, I guess, and then we'll switch to something that's more challenging. That, it'll be a little bit more befitting. So let's do like an onion. Okay, so I'm going to come over here. I'm going to start our onion. I'm going to come this way and just kind of make the shape. Alright, and that's why it's important to just kind of like just sketch it, so you're not beholden to perfection at the beginning. Okay, so we're just going to build out our onion this way. Okay. Now, it's simple enough. Okay, so certain areas like these outside parts where they kind of have the folds, from the onion itself, we can darken those up. Those will be those underlying shadows. Okay. So we just have that there. Now we're going to shade this kind of like we would a circle. I'm just going to come in here. And I want to leave kind of like a reflective surface a little bit, just so it has some of that glare. And come down in this way. And again on this side, leaving like an opening this way. So I want to have that big glare on there. Okay, so I don't want to make it completely dark, because we're going to have certain areas that have like a bounce light, bounce shadow type thing. So we just kind of have that set up right now. So now what I will do is we will come in here, and some of these areas, especially down here towards the bottom, I'm going to get a little bit of a darker shadow to it. Okay, and just throughout we can come to different points. To make it look like it's got those briny edge layers. So if you think about the onion, it's very, it's not solid with that outside piece on it. It's got way more texture to it. Okay. So, and this is just as much practice for me as it is for you. I haven't done a lot of realism in a while. I do a lot of stylized stuff, so sometimes it's good to just get back to basics of things. And again, not every area needs to be dark, just the areas that we see on there. Like this is one of an onion with like a, I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of like a red wrap around it, so I guess maybe it'd be a red onion. I don't know, it doesn't really say in the photograph. So I'm just kind of quickly putting in the things that I see. And I'm going to lightly come in here on this part and kind of leave that reflection. And then remember, if you go back way to one of my first videos where we talked about basic shading, we talked about things like cross-hatching and hatching. And so where this is looking kind of rough right now, right? You can also smudge things and smooth them out so that it's not so hard. You can soften things with a simple smudging, right? And I can come in here and really lay in those lines from the onion skin itself. Okay. So this probably wasn't like the best example in the world to use, just because it's so dark all the way around. But at least give us a foundation. Now on onions, they kind of tend to have these little roots still attached to them. So we can just kind of add those at the bottom. Okay, I'm going to really darken this bottom edge here. Okay, so once we get that kind of filled in, I know it's hard to see. I'm going to kind of slide it over so you can see it better out of the light. Okay, so that's what it should kind of look like. Like I said, probably wasn't the best sample to choose, but I'm just looking through random photos. So now we're going to work on something a little bit more challenging. Okay, so we're going to talk about like glass and reflections in that way. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to practice with some water droplets. Okay, so we're going to come in here and I'm going to sketch out some circles. That are just going to be water droplets. No particular pattern. Again, I just found a photo of a black and white water droplet. And they're just kind of like evenly spaced across whatever surface it is they're laying on. Could be a paper towel. I don't know, it's got some weird ridges. But we're just going to get those circles out. Okay, so in order to kind of really get that reflection in there, first thing we want to do is get that kind of almost like a ground shadow overlay from that. Okay, really make that nice and dark down here, and that'll bring that out. And think of it kind of like a mirror. So where I would usually start shading from here and go up, we want to go the opposite direction. So like what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little circle right here for an extra reflection. Okay, we're going to keep these edges nice and dark. And then what I'll do is we'll just kind of shade in from the top. So like I said, it's like a mirror. Think of it like we're working our way down. And just getting lighter as we go. Okay, so it gives us kind of like a little water droplet shape. Like that. So again, doing it this way, we do it this way just to help us. And I'm just going to erase that back just a little bit. And kind of just barely touch the paper when I'm doing that. But this will just help us kind of get used to drawing reflections. So again, you just repeat the same process for all of them. Just darken up those edges down there. Okay, now all of them should have that same reflective piece. And just clean that up so it stands out a little bit more. It should all have that same spot because the light source is coming from that same area. Just make sure you don't go inside of it. And just get really light as you get down towards the center. Okay, so we're just doing the same thing. Now some of these smaller ones we don't have to go as big with. You still want that little circle in there. Okay, so getting ourselves a nice little set of bubbles here. Okay, as you can see, they're all looking the same because they're all made out of the same material. The only time that that would change is, let's say you were doing this in, well, it doesn't even have to be in color. Just depends on the surface that you're having it sit on, because the other thing too is this just sitting on a flat, white table. If this was sitting on something like, let's say, a paper towel or something like that, you'd have to pick up those reflective and magnified fibers that would be inside of these circles. So like you would have to go in there and add some minute details in there just to pick it up. Some other things to think about is also like a reverse reflection on itself. So like technically, down at the bottom, making sure that that stays really white light. Just so that it's more reflective. Okay, but the same thing, I want to make sure, and we can just go ahead and do that. We want the same exact dot in each water droplet. And again, just make sure you're really light down towards this bottom area, and then you can get a tad bit of darkness up towards this top. Again, just to show that reflection throughout. Again, as I work my way down towards the bottom, and leave it light. Okay, and we'll do it one more time on this last droplet, and we'll move on to our last object for the day. Okay. Keep it nice and light down through here. Slowly get darker as I move my way up. So again, it's like a reverse, and it's just for water and some glass. Just a reverse reflection. Okay. So, if you remember, I said when we were done, we were going to do some glass. All right. So let's find a glass and try our best. Because I need to practice too. Well, we're going to try our best to shade that out. Trying to find a good glass that's got, some pretty decent reflections in it. So we'll just do like a regular, shot glass type glass. So nothing crazy. Okay, so I'm going to first sketch out the opening of the glass. Okay, just so that we have ourselves basic shape of the top. Wow, excuse me. Please forgive me for that. That was like rough. Not sick or anything, just kind of throat's dry this morning. Okay, so we're just going to continue our cup shape down. Let's go this way and go up to the edge. So now we have a basic shape. Okay, now what's going to really help it out is if we can get it to look like there's water in here. Okay, so just something to help us sell again the shape of the cup, because if you can see how wide that's going, that's about how wide our water needs to be. Okay, so now I have that. Now I can come in here and start shading things. So with glass, it's a little bit trickier. Okay, so we have to think about, rim edges and stuff like that. So what I'll do is we'll start here towards this edge. We know the way the picture is that I'm looking at, it's got the light coming kind of in from this side over here. So as I'm looking, you can kind of see I'm making this really black, really dark on here. And then we're going to kind of wrap this way and kind of fade. Then it comes to another area. So I'm just getting my darkest dark. So it comes to another area here. It starts coming out. And we just have these edges are super light. There's not shading in there. There's just a very light line work that's connecting that all around. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is we want to keep that same kind of pattern where it splits and rotates here. So we're going to come from this side, and again, you can learn this from, just look up your own images of just say glasses, pictures of glass and black and white, and you can really see how the transitions of different shades of like black and gray and clear come up in there. So you can see how it's very light. I'm taking this edge and connecting that around so it still looks solid. So I can still come in here and have things touch, and just now it'll be more solid in that area. Okay, now same thing with like the glass in here, right? I don't want dark shadows, so I'm going to barely, and I mean barely, touch the paper, and I'm just going to kind of hatch shade this in. Okay, now it may not look like much yet, but just stick with me. The cool part about going really light with this is we can now bring in our reflections by erasing out what shouldn't be there, and that'll give us our reflection that way. Okay. So now that I have that filled in like that, I'm just going to kind of smooth it out. You just got to put a little pressure, not a lot. And you want to make sure that you're in control. That way you're not like spreading it all over the place, okay? But little things I can do, I can take my eraser. Okay, I can come in here and I can erase out certain areas to give me my reflection on the glass. Okay, so I am basing this solely off the image I'm looking at on the internet. Again, these are just photographs. These are not other drawn pictures. They're just photographs of things in black and white to help you kind of see and pick out the shading. And then here's a little trick to it. You can come to these little edges here, okay, where you just erased, and you can darken just the outside rim of it a little bit, and it'll give it kind of like a smudged look of, some type of imprint that was on the glass at that spot to make the reflection come in. Okay, I can do the same thing over here on this side, except I'm going to take from the image's reference, which are all coming from the bottom right here. Okay, so we kind of have that. The next thing I want to do is start working on other reflective properties inside. So like right in here, it's not going to be as black. Okay, so we're not going for black, but it is a dark shaded color. So make sure that's nice and tight in there. And that kind of drifts over this way towards that area. Okay, I can now take different aspects of the water's edge. Okay, and we can build that in there. So this is going back to that black color like we did on the edge rim here, because it's causing a reflection of the water itself off the glass, so it gives it that real big black tone in there. Okay, the rest of this, we're just working with the movement of the light through the water. Okay, so I want this kind of separate right here. Alright, and then we have this kind of a darkened area for a swirl right here. Almost like where the water's not. It's almost like somebody kind of shook it up. And then I can just shade that in. Right down in here. Okay. And then just kind of continue. So it would kind of come above right here. And bring our glass out that way. Okay. Now, we do want to kind of do the same thing. So like what I would suggest is, again, find those areas where it splits. Okay, so like this part of the image that I'm looking at, there's a really dark area here. Okay, so that's just kind of picking that up in there. And then we have a reflective white. Coming in the area there. And then same thing along the top of this. We have a white light reflection that continues to go around. To that area. And then another one comes in like that. As you can see, it's a slow building process that liquid with glass and stuff can be very, very tricky. Okay, so we're going to kind of come in here and we're going to leave like another rounded reflection. Close that off. Okay, we're going to have a little bit. Again, this is not going to be black. It's going to be like a very dark gray. We're going to kind of have that kind of shape the glass here. Like that. Okay. Certain areas down in here. A little bit more of that white reflection. And then like right in here, let's clean this up. Okay, we'll clean that up. And then we'll take this out. Again, I want to leave that little bit of a white spaced gap right in there. And then kind of have it like that. And that can swirl out this way. So this will be a little bit lighter on this edge. Then as we work our way back, this will get much darker. And then we just kind of blend smooth, build it out and match it up. And then this whole area here in the middle. We can just have the same reflections that we see, at least that I see in the image. And put those out there. Have a little bit, and then just fill. This area here will be a little bit darker. Fill that in there. Now, because we have this break here, this piece here is going to come down, and then we're just going to have a reflective bounce to the light here. Okay, so it'll have that bit of separation for us. We want to have that down here too. Let's clean it up with an eraser. Give a little bit of a white edge there. Okay, so the rest of this, the closer it is to this area, I'm going to go for that black kind of color. Just on this part up here at the top. And then we'll lighten it out some. Okay. Now I don't want this to be completely white, so I'm going to very, very lightly shade the edge of the glass there. Okay. And then down in here, we want a couple more swirl reflections. Okay. So again, if you want to practice your shading, you want to get better, it's best to look at like real life objects and really kind of just challenge yourself to build out what you can. Okay. Now some of this stuff is going to reflect back down on itself from this cup. So we're going to have a few extra shadow spots that are kind of reflecting through. It's honestly just reflecting its own shadow from the light. Okay, as we work our way down, we get another reflection down in here. Just take that back. And I'm going to work out some of these glares first. So we'll just work that around. Again, since we're getting towards the bottom rim, some of these reflections are going to show back up. And I'm sorry if you can hear my dog barking. They were having some issues with the garage door, trying to get it down while they were leaving. So now I had to go out the front door instead. So now the dog thinks that they're going to come back in the door sometime soon. So he's out there barking. And honestly, without hollering and making a fuss to get him to stop, it's just going to be some background noise. Okay. So we're going to take this and we're going to go back with it. Okay, now what I want to do is we want to leave the impression of the shadow on the ground. So the first thing I want to do is, again, this water and stuff in here is not going to be perfect and clear. So I'm going to very, 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 very lightly. Very lightly. Okay, very lightly. You're just going to go through and you're just going to kind of lightly shade that in. Okay, same thing down here. Very lightly. If you notice, I did not shade in these glares because that's not how they look in the reference. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to do is get that ground shadow with the cup sitting on the ground. So let's just go from the shape and the angle of the light and how the actual shadow reflects off the bottom of this cup. Okay, so it's going to kind of have a slight piece on a slight edge that comes off the bottom of the cup because it's glass, so it kind of layered on itself, right? And we're going to take that and we're going to bring that out. Okay, so here's how this is going to work. You're going to have the water reflection show through the actual shadow on the ground. So you're going to see that separation there as it comes down. Now, the way the light hits through glass, it's still going to be much lighter at the center. It's not like your normal shadow where it's just going to be all dark in the middle. So like from this area, we're just going to have that be dark. Okay, then the rest of it, we'll just get that light coat of shading in the middle. Okay, so I'm going to take that, and since it's a shadow, I'm going to just smooth it out. Be very careful not to go inside my glass area. Okay, but I can use my finger to smooth and blend. Work that out, make sure we keep it within the confines of the shadow being cast. So essentially, now that we've done that, what we can do is the same method, except we're going to go lighter, because this is the part where the water is not touching. So this is going to be nice and light. Okay, so nice and light. Clean some of that up. Okay, and then again, we're going to go super light. Like I'm talking barely touching the paper. I'm barely touching this paper to get that out on there. Okay, so nice and light. And then I'm going to lightly use my finger to blend that in. Okay. And that's going to do it for our practice shading today. Remember, if you want to get better, you got to practice. You got to do it. I mean, look at me. I'm going back to basics on this. Trying to find some good shading techniques. Okay, if you like what you saw and you're interested in seeing more, please like and subscribe. Also, if you have ideas for what you'd like me to teach you how to draw, please leave a comment. I can't leave polls and ask you guys what you want. Please leave a comment and let me know what you want to see more of. Okay, anyway, I hope you really learned something. I hope you had fun. And until next time, keep sketching, and I'll see you in the next one, all right? Bye.